Hi, I'm Brayson, the engagement director at Kalungi. I came across a company that just crossed $400 million in revenue. An IPO was on the horizon, and in the founder's mind, he was working through an exercise of why he didn't need to pay for a quality marketing department internally in his team. He said to me something like this: an ad that used to take 2 weeks to produce now takes only one day. AI handles it all. Why do I need to pay so much for a marketing team? And I'll be honest with you, it was a great question. Because he was right. AI had completely collapsed the cost of production. Content that took a team 5 to 2 weeks and $30,000 now takes a person one time and one afternoon and $40 in API credits. So if the cost of production is free, what are you actually paying for? And why have the margins and ROI stayed the same or even gone lower? Here's the issue with the logic that he brought and with the thought process running through the head of every founder I've talked to in the past couple of months. The problem was never really solved with what he expected. Output was never the bottleneck, attention was. And AI just made the attention problem about 10 times worse. Let me describe a number that should bother you. In 2022, there was approximately 7 million blog posts published per day. By 2025, the industry estimates that number to be above 100 million per day. Not because humans are writing that much faster, but it's because AI has removed the friction from distribution entirely. Every B2B SaaS company from seed stage to Series D now has access to the same superpower: infinite cheap content, and they're all using it. They're all in the same game. And winning has only gotten harder and will only continue to get harder from here. And here's why: the attention economy is a zero sum game. There are only so many hours in a person's day that they can purchase something or review to buy. And every new piece of content that enters the market is competing for a fixed pool of attention. When you flood the market with more content, you don't grow the pool, you dilute it. What AI actually has done in this situation is that it gave every company the ability to produce at scale, which means the signal to noise ratio collapses, which also means buyers stopped trusting content by default, like they used to. And then in return means the bar for what earns attention has dramatically gotten higher. More output did not equal more growth. More output equals more noise. And the company is still operating on the old equation: more posts, more emails, more ads, more touch points, and more AI slop. The founder of that call I mentioned before had infinite distribution capacity, and he was about to use it to produce a higher volume of forgettable content faster than ever. And that's the trap he was leading into. So, what do you do when everyone has the loudest megaphone in a closed room? You stop shouting and you start looking different than everybody else. You start saying something worth listening to. And that sounds like a cheap tagline, so let me make it more concrete. Here are the three things I've watched that separate the companies getting traction right now from the ones drowning in their own AI shouting battle. The companies thriving in B2B SaaS right now are not the ones producing the most content. They're the ones producing the most specific content to their ICP. They're not writing how to improve your sales pipeline. They're writing how construction ISVs on Dynamics Business Central generate a qualified pipeline without a dedicated SDR team. That's a surgical tagline. And surgical content doesn't get lost in the flood because the flood doesn't go there. When AI produces generic content, your job is to produce specific content that lets the cream rise to the top. If your ICP can read your content and think, this is exactly written for my exact company, you're winning. Attention to detail really is brand signal. Here's something that AI can't replace at scale: genuine craft. The typo that AI missed, the case study that was copied pasted from a different client and never updated, the email sequence that references the wrong industry vertical, or the LinkedIn post that reads like it was written by a committee. In the age of AI, these errors are not just embarrassing, they're existential, because buyers are pattern machining faster than ever, and the signal they're looking for is whether this or that person pays attention to what they are delivering. The real question is whether we both know the other person on the other end of the deliverable is asking, if you can't pay attention to your own marketing, why would I trust you to pay attention to my business? Attention to detail is no longer just a quality standard, it's a brand signal. It tells the buyer before you've even spoken to them whether this is the kind of company I want to work with that sweats the small stuff or ships and hopes nobody notices. And right now, the companies that sweat the small stuff stand out like a clean glass and a dirty window. Lastly, human judgment needs to be applied to AI output. This is the piece most founders miss. AI doesn't replace thinking, it enables distribution. The best marketing teams I've seen in 2025 and 2026 are not the ones with the most tools. They're the ones with the clearest human judgment about what the tools should produce. AI can write a blog post. It cannot have an original, thoughtful take on a deep subject through experience. It can write a case study, but it can't tell the story of the phone call where the deal fell apart at 11 p.m. on a Tuesday from a lens of a sympathetic feeling, which is the most influential part of a marketing and sales process. It can generate a follow up email, but it can't know that particular buyer is a type A personality who reads the first sentence and decides in 3 seconds whether or not to reply. That judgment of knowing what to produce, for whom, at what level of specificity, with what voice, is the juice your marketing team can bring to the table. And that's what no one can copy at scale either. And that's also why it's worth paying for. Let me bring this back to the founder I was talking about before. He was preparing to launch a B2B sales automation product into one of the most crowded categories in enterprise software. Every competitor had a lot of content. Every competitor had a lot of ads. Every competitor had a LinkedIn presence and an email nurture sequence and free trial and so forth and so on. His plan that he was coming into the conversation with me about was to outproduce them, just flood the market. And I understood the logic. He does have the resources and he had the AI infrastructure and had the distribution capacity. So why not try that? And here was why not. The moment you compete on volume in a market where everyone has volume, you stop competing on quality. And in B2B SaaS, quality is what earns trust. The shortcut that AI offers is more output, faster, and cheaper. But it's a shortcut to the wrong destination. The companies using AI to produce more are winning the content race while losing out on the revenue race. The companies that will take the gold over the next 3 years in B2B SaaS are the ones using AI to produce better, more specific, more curated, carefully crafted content for humans in the judgment seat and enabling humans to be more ruthless in the editing procedure. What you have isn't distribution anymore. Everyone has distribution. The moat is high quality attention to your problem awareness and solution awareness content. And that attention is earned by the companies that make every touch point worth the reader's time. If this content helps you in any way, please subscribe. If you want more material like this, let me know. Lord willing, I'll see you next time. God bless.